Hey everybody, how you doing? Welcome back to the Drum Mission for another Drum Mission instructional. And you know what? This is actually going to be more of an instructional than a tutorial. I'm not teaching a song, I'm going to teach a method. And what do I mean by that? This is not even really a technique, but a method. I'm going to teach how do I learn songs for upcoming shows, maybe with bands I've never worked with before. How do I learn those songs quickly and efficiently so that when I jump into that situation, maybe a freelance gig, maybe I've never met the people, or maybe I'm filling in for a friend, how do I jump into that situation and play that show like I played it for 20 years so that the band that has hired me not only feels comfortable, but they're going to hire me again. And I mean, if you look at the overarching purpose of this channel, it's to help you make a living playing the drums. And to be honest with you, it's difficult now. It's difficult. The music business has changed quite a bit, and you really have to diversify. I teach, I go to people's houses and tune their drums. Obviously, I do gigs, and I have the YouTube channel. And even then, when things are slow, I do Uber. If I go back to the late 90s, the early 2000s, I was playing all the time. And I had to do very little teaching or anything else except playing. I was playing 3, 4, 5 nights a week, making good money. It's not the case anymore. And there's a lot of reasons for that, and I don't really want to go down that road in this video. So, I have to be playing as much as I can, as much as available to me. Means when I get that call to jump in as a sub, I need to do well enough that that band feels comfortable enough with me to continue to call me. And there's no better way to be on the top of that list than to play that show like you've done that show 1,000 times. So how do I do it? How do I do it? Now, I've said this before, I never really believe my fans are my critics, but one thing I do hear a lot from people I do fill in for from the band, and I hear that this actual sentence I've heard from many different people, or a sentence like this, they say, I can't believe it, you played that show or those tunes like you've played them for years. Another person said, I always have to look back at the drummer to help them along when they're filling in. I didn't have to look back at you once. How do you do that? So I do have a method that I kind of learned when I was doing cruise ships. I kind of figured out I was a relief guy, and I went from ship to ship to ship, and I had to learn stuff very quickly. There's basically 2 kinds of gigs I get called for. I either get the top 40 cover band, regular drummers, got a family engagement, can't make it, Glenn, would you fill in? And I'm really just going to be doing cover tunes, which most of those tunes I'm going to already know. Or I get that band that does original material, or that writer that does original material, and his regular drummer can't make it. So I thought, how am I going to teach that? Both gigs I use the same method, even though I may tweak the methods a little bit. So let me talk about with you a call I received about 3 months ago from a country pop, country rock, modern day gentleman named Todd, who had a band called the Taintsville Players. You know, I've never been a fan of that name. I don't really like silly names. I like names like the Beatles. They were clever with the A, you know, not B-E-E, but B-E-A. That was clever. Beatles, you know, that's cool. But I really don't like joke names.
The Wonders. Lenny.
Yeah, it looks like the Oneaters.
No, the Wonders.
Got it. Looks like the Oneaters.
But a bass player that I know recommended me, and he was going to be playing with them, and I thought, okay. The gentleman, Todd, sent me the songs, and I listened to them, and I thought, yeah, I'll do this. He had a couple of big shows coming up, and they had some issues with the other drummer, and they wanted me to come in. So now that's even worse because I have a reputation of being good. So my bar's already set too high. All right, and if you're trying to make a living doing this, all right, do you have to be Vinnie Colaiuta? No, you don't. Do you have to be Steve Gadd? No, you don't. Do you have to be a certain level of good? Yes, you do. And that really goes mostly about your timekeeping. So I agree to take the gig. And the guy sends me the tunes, and I just sample them. I peruse them. The tunes are good. He's a good writer. I think, oh, this is going to be a lot of fun. And so I listen to those tunes all the way through. That's step one. I put them in a playlist using whatever platform you like. I use YouTube Music. I put them in a playlist, and I clean the house, I do stuff, and I listen all the way through. And I do attentive listening. Attentive listening. And this may not be something I can do in one sitting. I may not have the time. And I'm going to listen to those tunes, when I'm cleaning the house, driving my car, walking to the store, taking a walk, on the treadmill. I'm going to listen. But attentive listening. What am I listening for? So after the first day, second day, I have listened for, are there any grooves in these songs that I'm going to have to work on? That's step one. And there was one. We're going to get to that. And that has to do with the intro that I did here. Are there any quirky things in the music? Like odd meters, a bar 3. Sometimes guys like to use that bar 2. Or, in this case, I noticed there were 2 songs where in the second verse he used 9 bars instead of 8. In other words, the first verse was 8 bars, second verse was 9. And that's an old trick. Beatles did it, Billy Joel did it, Springsteen did it, heard a lot of guys do it, and it can throw you if you're not ready for it. I'm listening for breaks or hits that the band does together that the drummer did as well that I'm going to have to do. And that has a subset. Is the hit a surprise, or is the music leading me to that break or that hit? And in this case, the music was really leading me there. So that's not as crucial to me than if it's a surprise that comes out of left field. But again, this guy Todd was a good writer, so the music really sets up things that are about to happen. Now, step 2, order the playlist. I put the playlist in order of hardest to easiest. Hardest to easiest. Why? Because if I'm only going to be in the car for 10 minutes, I want that first tune I hear on that playlist to be one I know I'm going to have to work on. One I know I'm going to have to remember. And even when I'm driving, I'm listening. I'm driving, but I'm not letting my mind wander too much. If I'm walking to the store, I'm listening. And I do that a lot, but it's only about a 15-minute walk. So I want those first 4 tunes to be stuff that I know I'm going to have to work on. The stuff that's going to be hardest to make the band feel good about. To make me feel good in making the band feel good. So step 1, attentive listening. Step 2, I order the playlist. Step 3, work on the problem areas. So first I'm going to work on little sections of tunes that have odd meters and things like that. The breaks I'm talking about, I'm going to work on that. And then, with that, at the same time I'm doing that, continuously, is there a groove that might be, for me, a little difficult to play? Now, I have to say, generally that doesn't happen. But in this case, it did. Let's talk about that intro. So the intro to this video is from a song called Please, which was the song that Todd was getting 300,000 plays on Spotify. So in my mind, I'm thinking, oh, he's going to want to open the show with this. And it really was the hottest tune on the CD he sent me. And I just thought, oh, he's going to want to open with this. And the groove was one-handed 16th notes at 98 beats a minute. And guys, that's about my line. You know, I can do that. But you can tell by the intro to this video that I was just hanging on. Now, I did not play it that way in the big show. There was a big show he was going to do. Because of those hits, he was going to be, I think, opening for Cheap Trick at this big festival that we had here. And I knew I had to play it better than I seemed to be able to play it. And then a couple of the rehearsals, you know, they said, oh, this song sounds good, but it sounded a little bit slow. And I knew that was my fault, because 96 beats a minute, not a problem. 95, not a problem. 98, now, I felt really bad about that because, you know, 15 years ago I could crush 98, but I had recently watched a Jeff Beccaro video I did recently where he had mentioned that he had to tell Mike McDonald that the song I Keep Forgetting, which had one-handed 16th notes at 98 beats a minute, that he had to make sure that Mike McDonald didn't open up his shows with that, because he wouldn't be able to just jump into that tune, because even during the studio he felt like his hand was going to fall off.
You know, 16ths. Just the more you do it, I guess the easier, but I'm telling you, it was... You don't want that to be the first tune when you're doing an hour set.
Step 1, playlist. Step 2, order the playlist. Step 3, I work on the problem areas. Step 4, know your limitations and find a way to work around it. As a side note, by the way, I figured out that during the choruses, I could just do straight 8s and slosh the hi-hat around, and I did that at first to save my hands. Turned out that Todd liked it better. He liked it, and I thought, woohoo, woohoo, score 1 for the team. I really hadn't figured out how I was going to play that tune to just a few days before the big show. So let me say it this way. The way I chose to play it was the way that made the time feel good. So, one of my rules, my blanket rules, is I always choose in favor of time. Always choose in favor of time. Very important, because if it feels good and the band feels good, then the singer's gonna feel good, and you know what? You're gonna get hired again. All right, let's talk about my fixes. My fixes for my inadequacy at the time, or inadequacy now at 62 years old. My first thing to do was this. Let me do that more up to tempo and add my feet, and you'll see what I mean. Alright, I thought that works, but it didn't sit right with me. And the next thought was Kid Charlemagne with Bernard Purdie, a groove that he did, which he also did in Rocksteady, which really simulates 16th notes. He's leaving more out on the hi-hat. It gives him more ability to mess around with hi-hat accents. Let me show you what that is. Just hands. And I thought, okay, that's a little sparse, but at 98 beats a minute, let's see how it feels. Now that gave me the ability to add accents, open up the hi-hat more, and just play more on top of it, but still relaxed. Play more on top of it, but still relaxed. And that's the exact groove I played at that show, and it just felt good. It felt good. And I felt like, woohoo! Yeah. So, should I work on 16 notes, 198 beats a minute? I don't know. Even Jeff Porcaro said he had trouble with it. When I do it in my practice room, it seems like I can do those 98 beat a minute, 16 notes, but when I do it live and I add the power, it seems to have a little trouble. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to do what I need to do when I need to do it. All right, back to me. The last thing I do, this is not a crazy long list, is I run through the whole show. Top to bottom, whole thing. And I go over the songs that may have been a problem area with my fixes maybe twice, maybe 3 times. Top to bottom. In this case, it was an hour show, and I really didn't need to go over Jumpin' Jack Flash and a few things like that, so I was just going to go over the original tunes, top to bottom, playing Please 2 or 3 times, feeling comfortable with the way I had chosen to do it. And by the way, I did it live that way, and not only did the crowd love it, Todd loved it, and I'll be doing more shows with that band. Alright guys, I'll take you out with this. This is that song Please, and my little take on it. I actually like my groove a little better than the groove that's on the record. Shh, don't tell Todd. Okay, I'll put a link into the description so you can go to his website and buy the stuff. If you like it, here's a little taste, about a minute, and hopefully he won't mind that I made fun of the name a little bit. Alright, here we go. I will see you folks on the next one.